Hey everyone, Sam here. The 2026 season is only 5 races in, and we are already at a point where a 4-time world champion is publicly threatening to quit Formula One. Not hinting at it, not dancing around it, flat out saying it. Max Verstappen stood in front of the media at the Canadian Grand Prix and told them, "It's just mentally not doable for me to stay." That is not a throwaway line. That is a driver who has won 4 world titles telling the sport he loves that he has a limit, and that limit is getting close. The paddock is divided, the manufacturers are fighting behind closed doors, and the deadline to fix the 2027 engine rules is running out fast. Let's break down exactly what Verstappen said, who is standing in the way of the changes, and what this means for the future of Formula One. To understand why Verstappen is so frustrated, you need to hear the full picture. Verstappen has never been shy about his dislike for the current generation of cars, but his comments in Canada were the strongest yet. When asked what it would mean for his future if the proposed 2027 rule changes collapsed, he did not hold back. He said it is going to be a long year next year, which he does not want, and then he added that it is simply mentally not doable for him to stay. He was also asked whether he might take a sabbatical, a year off to wait things out, and he shut that down immediately. He said there are a lot of other fun things out there to do. That is not the language of someone who is going to sit on the sidelines and wait for Formula One to sort itself out. If he leaves for good. So, what exactly is the problem that has Verstappen ready to quit? It all comes down to the power units. As we have discussed before, the original 2026 regulations called for a 50-50 split between the internal combustion engine and the electrical battery deployment. The problem is that this setup forces drivers to drive in a way that feels unnatural and, frankly, not very fun. They have to manage the battery constantly, lifting and coasting on the straights and dealing with sudden drops in power. It is a highly technical, management-heavy style of racing that takes away from the pure thrill of pushing a car to its absolute limit. After the Miami Grand Prix, it looked like there was a breakthrough. Formula One, the FIA, and the teams agreed in principle to change the rules for 2027. The proposal was to move away from the 50-50 split and go to a 60-40 split, with 60% of the power coming from the combustion engine and 40% from the battery. This would solve a lot of the drivability issues and make the cars feel more like traditional Formula One cars. It seemed like a win for everyone, especially the drivers who have been complaining about the current setup. But agreeing in principle is very different from actually changing the rules. And this is where the politics of Formula One come into play. To get the 60-40 split approved for 2027, 4 of the 6 engine manufacturers need to vote in favour of it. Right now, they do not have the votes. The paddock is split and the clock is ticking. On one side, you have Mercedes and Red Bull. Both of these manufacturers are fully in favour of the 60-40 split. They see the problems with the current regulations, they hear the complaints from the drivers, and they believe that changing the ratio is the right move for the sport. Red Bull, of course, has a vested interest in keeping Verstappen happy, but Mercedes is also on board, which shows that this is not just a Red Bull issue. On the other side, you have the manufacturers who are resisting the change. The biggest roadblock right now appears to be Audi. Audi is entering the sport in 2026, and they have been developing their power unit based on the original 50-50 rules. Changing to a 60-40 split for 2027 would require a significant hardware revamp, and Audi is reportedly pushing back on cost grounds. They do not want to spend millions of dollars redesigning an engine that they have just finished building. Ferrari is also hesitant. They are not necessarily against the idea of a 60-40 split, but they want more time to evaluate how the change will impact development and homologation. They are worried about the unintended consequences of rushing a major rule change. Honda and Cadillac are also said to have their own reservations. This leaves Formula One in a very difficult position. They need 4 votes, and right now, they only have 2 solid yes votes from Mercedes and Red Bull. Audi is seen as the key swing vote. If Formula One can convince Audi to support the change, they might be able to get the 4 votes they need. But time is running out. The manufacturers need to commit to their 2027 designs imminently. If this drags on much longer, it will simply be too late to make the changes, and Formula One will be stuck with the 50-50 split for another year. This is where the frustration is really starting to boil over, not just from Verstappen, but from team bosses as well. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella spoke out about the situation in Canada, and his comments were very telling. Stella warned that if the changes are blocked, everyone in Formula One will lose. He said that the general interest of the sport should prevail over the particular self-interests of individual manufacturers. Stella made it clear that if Formula One does not preserve the value of the business and the quality of the racing, everyone suffers. He called the proposed 60-40 split a credible and feasible package, and he urged the power unit manufacturers to find a way to make it happen. He also confirmed that the drivers are still complaining about the energy deployment issues in their debriefs. The problems have not gone away, they have just become the new normal, which is exactly what Verstappen is so angry about. Verstappen himself addressed the political maneuvering during his media sessions. He acknowledged that some manufacturers who feel they have an advantage under the current rules will try to be difficult about changing them. That is just the nature of Formula One. But he also called on the FIA to step up and take control. He said that if the FIA is strong, they just need to force the issue. He even suggested that the FIA overruling an objecting manufacturer would be better for the sport as a whole. That is a bold statement, and it shows just how little patience Verstappen has left for the political games. He does not care about Audi's budget or Ferrari's development timeline. He cares about driving a car that is fast, fun, and challenging in the right ways. And if Formula One cannot provide that, he is ready to walk away. Some people might think Verstappen is bluffing. They might think that a driver making tens of millions of dollars a year would never actually quit over a rule dispute. But Verstappen has always been fiercely independent. He races because he loves racing, not because he loves the fame or the money. He has already achieved everything there is to achieve in Formula One. He has his world championships, his records, and nothing left to prove. If the cars are not fun to drive, and if the sport feels more like a political battleground than a racing series, why would he stay? He has already mentioned his interest in other forms of motorsport, like endurance racing. The idea of Max Verstappen leaving Formula One to go race at Le Mans or in GT cars is a very real possibility. The next few weeks are going to be critical. The FIA and Formula One management will be working overtime to broker a deal between the manufacturers. They know they cannot afford to lose their biggest star, but they also cannot ignore the concerns of massive automotive companies like Audi and Ferrari. It is a delicate balancing act, and the stakes could not be higher. If they can get the votes and push through the 60-40 split for 2027, it will be a massive relief for the drivers and a huge win for the fans. It will mean better racing, less battery management, and a happier Max Verstappen. But if the manufacturers dig their heels in and block the changes, the fallout could be disastrous. We could be looking at a scenario where a four-time world champion decides that enough is enough and walks away from the sport at the peak of his career. It would be a devastating blow to Formula One, and it would cast a long shadow over the new regulation era. The ball is now in the court of the manufacturers. They have to decide what is more important, protecting their own short-term interests or ensuring the long-term health and entertainment value of the sport. Andrea Stella is right. If they make the wrong choice, everyone loses. What do you think about Verstappen's threat to quit? Is he justified in his frustration, or should he just accept the rules and get on with it? And do you think the manufacturers will eventually agree to the 60-40 split, or are we stuck with the current regulations for the foreseeable future? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you are new here and you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. We cover all the big stories from the paddock every week. And if you want to catch up on the engine regulation debate from the start, I did a full breakdown of the 2027 power unit changes a little while back, so go check that one out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.